Hey Denchbags, what's going on? It's Landon Rumix here, and welcome to my review of the fourth studio album from rapper, producer, electronic music wizard LONEMOON. This one is called CRESCENTS. This album follows LONEMOON and Visceral's collaborative mixtape EP, which dropped earlier this year. If you don't remember, I actually did review that one, and I praised it quite a bit before that though, but somehow still this year, LONEMOON actually dropped an album, Where's Luna? So this makes for his second album in 2016. Where's Luna seems to be his last electronic project, as we saw him veer into rap with the Notes to Self EP, and CRESCENTS appears to go back to that, with it being his big full-length rap debut. I'm going to be straight up, I'm not in love with this album, but I do think it made a decent to good follow-up to the Notes to Self EP. I think in a lot of spots this album is a step up from it, but in other spots it is a step down. I think some of the album's biggest downfalls are both its features and its very cheesy sampling of JFK in multiple spots on this album, really talking about going to the moon. Although I do think if you can let both of those samples slide on the first two tracks, you will find a lot of enjoyment in the first part of this album. LONEMOON absolutely throws down on the track Thoughts, which actually does have a lot of influence from one of my favorites album from him, his debut Amaranth, especially with his piano work on the end of the track, which leaves listeners with a really chilled out feeling. Unsurprisingly, with this being his only absolutely solo track on the album, I did love it. On the rest of the album, we do see a number of features both on production and on vocals. We see Visceral from the Notes to Self EP returning on this one and producing on a couple of tracks on both of the ones that featured Tony J. And we also see LONEMOON's friend Dumu, who had a remix on the Where's Luna album, reappear and produce for him on the final track on this record, one that I actually liked quite a bit, which also seems to come as no surprise considering I do think out of LONEMOON's big group, I think Dumu is one of the most talented producers of the bunch. I'd like to say I love the track Hadoken. I really didn't. I really like LONEMOON's verse on this one. I think the hook is just a little bit too repetitive for my taste. I will admit though, Trash TV's verse on this song has actually grown on me quite a bit since I heard it for the first time, which I did think it was actually trash the first time I listened to it. It actually took me a couple listens to catch on that at one point Trash TV talks about getting raped. I'm not sure if that's in the metaphorical sense or the literal sense, but that part definitely caught me off guard and something that made this track a little bit more interesting. The song Spaceman served as the album's lead single, and it served as something that I didn't necessarily love my first couple runs through, but I do tend to like it a lot more now just because I do think it's one of the best produced beats on the record. I especially love the jazz infusion that flows through the background of this entire track. And once again, just like on Thoughts, we see LONEMOON going absolutely ham both on the hook and in his verses. I think people who are into the commercial rap scene will really dig the song Jungle, which features up-and-comer Maxed on co-production, and I honestly did think this one was a little bit cheesy both in terms of production and the hook, which tended to push me away. This track is followed by the two Tony J features, neither of which had much vocal content that I was really going crazy over. I actually did like Visceral's production on this one quite a bit. I really do think LONEMOON and Visceral should collaborate more often in their music. And of course there is the album's closer Wake Up, co-produced by Dumu, which is arguably one of my favorites on the record. I think one of the really cool things about this track is that its quirky and kind of light-toned production goes perfectly with the lyrical content that LONEMOON is trying to push out with this. On this one you get bright jazz piano complemented by LONEMOON's more light-toned lyrics about a woman. I especially liked LONEMOON's line where he said, "Come on girl, let me see that pretty grin," which just actually put a grin on my face. If LONEMOON did one thing really good with this album, it's that he opened it in the perfect way and that he closed it in the perfect way, which made the album quite a bit more tolerable in the end. Overall, I think this album could have done more, but I do think it made for a solid full-length rap debut for LONEMOON. For CRESCENTS, I'm feeling a light to decent 5.5 out of 10. As usual, I'm going to have the stream linked in the description so you guys can check it out for yourself. If you have listened to this album or you actually featured on the album, give a quick shout in the comments section below. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this review, and I'll see you later. Peace.